welcome back. I'm really happy to introduce somebody who she's been a great inspiration for me, very helpful with my dogs and the things that I do at home. Tonya is an amazing person. She owns a great little boutique where I love to spend money. And she's going to be speaking to you today about nutrition, and I'm happy to introduce Tonya Christiansen from Must Love Dogs.
Yay! Hello. Nutrition is something that I'm really passionate about, and I have been ever since I got my first Basenji over 13 years ago. I have been enamored by the breed ever since, and I really appreciate what they bring to my life, so I feel that I want to add to all their lives as much as possible. And nutrition is the cornerstone of who a dog is. As Suzanne said, I own a dog boutique. I've always been known as the dog lady, and on the side, everybody's always come to me for advice on things. And so opening the store was a way for me to have a larger platform to help people, because I believe that my purpose in life is to help dogs live better lives through educating their people in nutrition, training, and behavior. Obviously today I'm going to focus on nutrition. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with what dogs are supposed to eat, how close we can come to meeting that with kibble if you choose, or with a raw diet if you choose. And then we'll move into supplementation, and then a little bit about how diet can help dogs that have issues such as allergies or seizures or cancer. We'll start out by why is diet important to your dog? Diet is critical in determining many, if not almost every aspect of your dog's life: who they are, their health, their temperament, how they feel. You remember what Grandma used to say: garbage in, garbage out, and that's the God honest truth. Let's see here. If you feed a good diet, it doesn't guarantee that you're not going to make vet visits, but what hopefully it does do is it assures that hopefully your vet visits won't be because you have issues. It'll be more because you have a scheduled checkup. I always tell people that you're going to pay for it one way or another. You're either going to pay for it in a quality food, or you're going to pay for it at the vet. And I would much rather pay for it to keep my dog healthy than to pay for it on the other end. And why is a diet important to a foster dog? A good diet. When a dog has a healthy diet, they have a stronger immune system. They're able to adjust to stress much more readily. And their temperaments are more, for Basenji even, more even toned. What I want to talk about, and I'm going to give you a couple of references. And throughout my whole presentation, I'm going to refer to things that have been presented by Dr. Karen Becker. And her website is mercola.com, and it's MERCOLA.com. Dr. Karen Becker practices a more holistic approach to veterinary medicine. She has some amazing videos on everything you can imagine, from raising your dog's seizure threshold so that they can withstand a lot before they actually have a seizure, to Cushing's, she's amazing. So write that down and check her out. But I'm going to refer to a lot of things that she said. Every pet should be fed a species-appropriate food, and what I mean by species-appropriate is that you wouldn't feed a bird the same thing you'd feed a dog. A dog is a carnivore. He is designed to derive their nutrients from meat protein, not grain, not carbohydrate, not like proteins from vegetables. So, lost my spot here. If we veer away from what dogs are designed to eat, then their body has to work to compensate for things that they're not getting. And sometimes a diet can make a dog sick just as much as it can make them healthy. So it's really important that we focus on a species-appropriate diet. One thing that I want to cover right now, and this is pulled directly from a video from Dr. Karen Becker. We're going to list the 13 diets that are available to dogs, and we're going to list them in best to worst order. And most of well, I could probably safely say that all of you are going to fit into one of these 13 categories. The very best diet that you can feed your dog is a homemade raw diet. Now, don't confuse this with a homemade cooked diet. It's very different. And the only way I recommend a homemade raw diet is if you've done a boatload of research. It's not something where you can just go, I'm going to throw a chicken breast down and some carrots and call it good, and then, you know, because I don't know if you remember, I'm sure you do, the recall that was, I don't know, 5 years back. And I had my store at that time, and none of my foods were involved in the recall, but I had a lot of customers coming in saying, I'm just going to cook for my dogs now, I'm just going to cook for my dogs. And it concerned me because if you cook for your dogs and you don't do it appropriately, you could actually have a malnourished dog. You could cause a whole myriad of more problems than if you fed a nutritionally balanced, poor quality diet. The very second best diet for your dog is a commercial raw diet. The homemade raw is where you have to do all the research, and then you plan your dog's meal, and sometimes it's more intricate than feeding yourself. The commercial raw diet it's all done for you. One of the commercial raw, there's Stella and Chewy's out there. There's Nature's Variety, which has a raw diet. I personally carry the Nature's Variety in my store. And Nature's Variety designs it so that you can rotate your protein sources, because that's ideal. It is not ideal to feed your dog lamb dog food for its entire life. If you feed one protein source, your dog may develop allergies, and that's why chicken and beef are the top 2 protein sources dogs are allergic to, because those were the 2 protein sources that were primarily found in dog foods. And now, lo and behold, dogs are starting to become allergic to lamb too. So the raw commercial diet is done for you. You just, there's like either patties or medallions, but they say your dog gets a patty in the morning and a patty at night. You just thaw it out and feed it to them. Easy. Easy peasy. Number 3 is a cooked homemade diet. Again, you want to do, a ton of research, but when you cook food, you actually remove nutrients from it. So that's why raw is better than cooked. But some people, for whatever reasons, if you have therapy dogs, they won't let you feed raw foods. You have to cook it. And so that is still the number 3 best. Then we move to number 4, which is the human grade canned food diet. This is one of the most expensive diets. And one of the things that I didn't touch on is that the reason raw is so great and the canned is up at the top is the moisture content. Dogs fed kibble tend to live in a consistent period of dehydration because their bodies are meant to eat moist, wet food. Raw food, canned food usually has about 70% moisture in it, where kibble has, I don't know, I forget, like 17% or something like that. Don't quote me on that, but a drastic amount less. So the human grade canned food diet will say human grade on the package or human quality, and it's usually found in upscale boutiques, and it is the most expensive diet that you can feed. So if you are really short on time and you have a lot of money, then you can, then that might be your way to go. Okay. Number 5 is human grade dry kibble. Again, found at like your upscale boutiques. Human grade quality ingredients. Then we move to super premium canned, which is like the upper end at the big box stores. Number 7 is super premium dry. And then number 8 on the list is vet canned. Number 9 is vet dry. Then we go number 10 is grocery store canned. Number 11, grocery store dry. Number 12 is semi-moist pouch foods. You know, like I don't even know, this is like, I don't want to name any brands, but you know the kind that you rip the pouch open, pour the food into the bowl, and it looks like, the dog's thrilled. And there is actually a chemical in there called propylene glycol, which is related to antifreeze. And as we all know, antifreeze is toxic to dogs, and what the propylene glycol does is it gives it that chewy texture. And obviously that's not a good thing to be feeding your dogs. The absolute worst diet that you can feed your dog is an unbalanced homemade diet. So that's what I touched on, at the beginning of the list, is that even if raw and you're not feeding it right, it is worse than feeding, bottom of the line, grocery store, sawdust-filled food. So I think everybody fits into one of those categories, safe to assume. And so now I'm going to kind of cover how you want to choose your dog food. And this is where it can get a little tricky because the dog food companies, some out there are very honest and reputable. They're few and far between. Dog food is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and they're all out to sell, the most food possible. So they can get a little, I don't want to say shady, but they can get a little creative on their ingredients list and how they present things to you. Things that you should always avoid in dog food is corn and wheat and soy. Now, the reason being is because our goal is to, go ahead.
I know you mentioned veterinary canned and veterinary dry.
Mm-hmm.
Are you talking about prescription diets for certain conditions or just?
Well, yes, in some cases you're forced to feed a prescription diet. You really have no alternatives. But those cases are rare. But those veterinary diets aren't natural and whole. I'm trying to be politically correct and nice.
In my opinion, those types of diets are more appropriate for a short-term
Yes.
situation.
Yes.
Like say the dog's having a vomiting problem or something and you need to go to something really bland until you resolve it.
Yes.
I was thinking more of like Haiti where they have kidney disease and they end up.
But you can actually, in situations like that, when your dog has an issue, you can actually feed an all-natural raw diet and do a better job at it than that would. It just takes more work and it takes more research, and a lot of people will just go, well, this is what my vet says, so I'm going to do it. But there's a lot of things, you just have to research your specific situation. There's all natural diets you can be, and it might have to be a raw diet. You might have to do a little more supplementation than the average person, but overall it's going to be better for your dog. So the corn, wheat, and soy. The reason we want to avoid corn, wheat, and soy in dog food, and I'm not saying treats, I'm saying dog food, is because when vegetable-based, these things are added, it's to get protein into the dog food. But vegetable protein is not as bioavailable to dogs as meat protein. So the only reason to put corn, wheat, and soy in dog food, soy not as much, but the corn and wheat very much so, is for the protein purpose. It's usually found in lesser quality dog foods because it's a lower price. They can get the protein in the dog food for less money, so then they can sell it for less money. So your dog should, your meat, there should be at least 2 or 3 whole meats in the first ingredients, or a meat and a meat meal, or at the very least a meat meal. The reason I say so, because if you look at some of the lesser quality dog food companies that are trying to pass off a natural variety, they put it in a green bag and they write natural across the front, and you're like, yay, and it's not. It'll have chicken listed as the first ingredient. You're like, look, it has chicken, it's the first ingredient, that's great, right? And then it's a whole meat. So here's the thing, the kibble that you're buying is dry. When they weighed the ingredients, they were whole, so that chicken was wet. 70% moisture is in that chicken when they weighed it and put it in the first ingredient. Once it gets in the kibble, all that moisture is removed, and it slides way down the ingredients list. So now your first ingredient is actually the second ingredient, which is most likely rice or corn if it's in a lesser one. So it's important to do either multiple whole meats so that you can assure that the protein is coming from meat, or whole meat meals. You also want to avoid artificial colors, artificial preservatives, vague descriptions. I won't go into this in too much depth, but there are some just horrible things that can be in dog food. Like if your dog food says animal fat, it should say chicken fat. Usually it's chicken fat it's used as a preservative. Animal fat could be a myriad of different animals. things that are used in dog food are roadkill, euthanized pets. So if it doesn't say something specific, don't ever buy it. Avoid byproducts, chicken byproducts. Those are things that that are not fit for human consumption. Yes?
Sorry, I keep asking.
That's okay.
Well, as far as like the byproducts go, like my dogs love chicken feet, and that's technically a byproduct.
Well, and as long as, see, I wouldn't have a problem with that, is if you give them a chicken foot and say, here's a chicken foot, you wanna chew on it, have at it.
Yeah, they love it.
But when they say byproducts, it doesn't say chicken feet. I might not have as much of a problem with it if it said somewhere along the line, but when it's so vague, it leaves such a wiggle room for whatever they wanna throw, things that aren't fit for people to eat, yeah. I was gonna go somewhere and now I've forgotten. I'll remember. Yeah, byproducts. Whole grains. If you do choose a dog food that has grain in it, you want to make sure it's whole grain. You don't want brewer's rice. Brewer's rice is leftover from human production. The whole grain has the most nutrients. When you start, using these leftovers, essentially. My dog deserves better than stuff that's swept off the floor. So brown rice, barley, millet. And I don't think I need to tell you, I'm probably preaching to the choir when I say look for American-made and American-sourced products. Because not that there are never going to be any problems with American-made and American-sourced product, you're reducing the likelihood. The whole issue with that big recall about 5 years ago was with was it melamine in dog food? It was a plastic in dog food. And so you just want to reduce your risk by looking for American-made products. Now there are some things, like for example, in some quality dog foods, they'll get their lamb from another country. I'm trying to remember.
New Zealand.
Thank you. All of a sudden it went phew. And that's fine. You just want to make sure you do your research and find out where these things are coming from. And a reputable dog food company will have no problem telling you. You call them and you say, hey, can you tell me where your chicken's sourced? And if they don't tell you, then they don't make the cut. I remember what I was going to say earlier back about the byproducts. They're talking about, if anything, like, if it says digest in the ingredients list, does anybody know what digest is? It's the intestines of the animal, and they try to remove as much feces as possible. So, there could actually be animal feces in your dog food. Raw diet. If you decide to switch to a raw diet, this is something that can cause your dog, the digestive system, quite a bit of shock. If it's been eating kibble for 6 years and you're like, oh, I didn't know raw was the best, I'm gonna go for it, and you cold turkey them over onto cold turkey, then you could have digestive upset. So what I recommend for some people is, if that's something that you want to do, you can even start out with turkey and cook it, and then for a week you cook it all the way, and then for the next week you cook it for 3 minutes less, and then the next week you cook it for even less, until eventually it's raw, and then your dog has had time to adjust. And I touched on varying proteins. It's very important to vary proteins when, if at all possible. Again, I'm going to touch on Nature's Variety. Nature's Variety makes a instinct and prairie line, and they design their food intentionally so that you can rotate your protein sources fairly easily without digestive upset, and I love that. Supplementation. There is no perfect answer for every dog. I cannot say that Canidae is the best dog food for every single dog out there, hands down. Dogs, like people, are individuals in the sense that some dogs need more of this, some dogs have a higher metabolism, so you're responsible for finding out what is the best fit for your dog. Sometimes lamb can be a little too rich, sometimes you need to go to something a little more bland. you know, and so in that sense, you may also need to supplement. And supplementation is great for, well, let me back up a second. Talking about products that say they have supplements in them, like products that say they have glucosamine or chondroitin or MSM or digestive enzymes. Is that good? Yes. Is it always active? No. Is it enough to make a difference? You know, if I have a dog that has hip issues or knee issues, I'm going to supplement my glucosamine and chondroitin and MSM because they're not, in my opinion, getting enough from the supplement from the dog food. Now that might be a good thing for you to add in addition to the supplementation. They can't like really overdose on it, so they, you know, what they don't need, they get rid of. Same thing for the probiotics. I highly recommend that every dog be on a digestive enzyme, probiotic, and prebiotic. And I use NatureVet, and it's all in one. And it's really simple to use. And what this does is that the digestive enzymes make it so that your dog can utilize the maximum amount of nutrients from your food. So it's not being wasted in the backyard. The probiotics and the prebiotics keep, they either replenish and or keep the healthy bacteria and flora active in your dog's gut. This is going to build a strong immune system. The immune system is in the digestive tract. So whether, it doesn't matter what your dog's dealing with. If your dog needs to heal from a broken bone, if your dog has allergies, if your dog has Cushing's, you need to ensure that your dog's immune system is as strong as you can possibly make it, and this is just one way to do that. I don't believe in over-vaccinating. My dog's body, our bodies, I mean, this all goes from between people and dogs. Our bodies are designed to do amazing things and keep us healthy as long as we take care of it. And so if you supplement with the digestive enzymes, probiotics, prebiotics, and help to keep your dog's immune system strong, you may not even notice they have allergies because their body's able to cope with them. Oh, and supplements. I like to make sure that my supplements are NASC certified. Dog supplement or pet supplements in general do not have any regulatory system in place except the NASC. So there's a little symbol that goes on the package, and if it's certified, they're proud to have it on there. So if it's not on there, most likely it's, you know, sometimes they haven't had time to change the packaging, but usually they're pretty happy to brag about that. I want to talk a little bit about healing crisis. Does anybody know what a healing crisis is? When somebody has been on a poor diet, let's say fast food, they're eating fast food every day, and then they move to a lean meat, vegetable, and fruit diet, they might actually feel sick. It'll get worse before it gets better. So it's the same case for dogs. If they're on brand X from the grocery store and you switch them over to brand Y from the pet boutique, and this has happened to me a lot, and I've had to talk people down because they're like, they switch and the symptoms are getting worse first. And this is what is called a healing crisis, where your dog's body is trying to fix itself, and sometimes the toxins can build up as they're trying to be expelled. So if and when you try to do something more for your dog and you see this, don't be alarmed. Just keep a good eye on it and make sure that it doesn't get too excessive. And maybe sometimes you need to back off, and do it a little more slowly. Like, you know, I was mentioning with the raw, you know, maybe you cook it a little bit instead of just, you know, going straight raw. But it is the right thing to do. You just need to be patient, and you need to be attentive to your dog, and it will be better in the end. Let's see here. A couple of examples on how diet can help a dog who has health issues. Dogs with seizures. My Kodo, he's just over 13 years old. He had a seizure, which was a symptom of a brain tumor, and he also now has Cushing's, which is also a symptom of a brain tumor. But after he had his first seizure, I immediately switched him to grain-free. Dogs that are having seizures, their seizure threshold can be raised, which means that they can tolerate more before they have a seizure by feeding grain-free dog food. Another example is dogs with cancer. Grain-free dog food will not heal cancer, but what it will do, cancer cells thrive on carbohydrates. And if you go grain-free or higher protein, lower carbohydrate, you may or may not be able to slow down the progression of the cancer simply by what you're feeding your dog.
I've got a foster with cancer right now, and her oncologist actually recommended that we switch to a grain-free dog food immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And also recommended that we supplement with omega-3 fatty acids and Yunnan Bio.
I'm sorry?
Is it Yunnan Bio?
I'm not
It's a
familiar.
Chinese medicine term.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just wondering if you had any comments on that.
I'm not familiar with that specific one, but yeah, definitely the omega-3 and the grain-free. And I'm in the process of switching all of my dogs over to grain-free and raw. And you can mix. There's a little controversy out there saying you either have to feed kibble or you have to feed raw, but you can't do both. And I disagree with that. Suzanne?
I have 7 dogs, five of which eat both raw and kibble. And we do rotate proteins too. We have 4 different proteins, sometimes 5, that we rotate in as raw. But we do keep them on totally grain-free kibble, and we do the raw as in there intermittently. But it's not an everyday thing, and we haven't had an issue with that.
Well, and a lot of people, one common thing I get asked when I'm talking to people in my store about raw dog food is they're like, well, don't I need the crunch of the kibble to give my dogs good dental health? And I'm like, well, no, it's the enzymes in the raw diet actually keep your dog's teeth cleaner. I feed my dogs raw bones on a regular basis. Pumpkin here, you guys can all stare in her mouth later if you want. She's 7 and she's never had a dental cleaning, and doesn't really need one. But she has a little bit of on one, can be taken care of really easily. Matter of fact, the last time she was chewing on bones, after she was done, I was able to take my finger and just, flick off the little tartar that she had there, and it was gone. So, raw is really ideal. Now, what else? There was another thing that I wanted to talk about. Oh, who in here was talking to me the other day about a diet that they were feeding their dog with had a kidney issue? Was that, or liver, maybe? We were
I
talking-
wasn't talking to you, but my one dog has some kidney issues. They're not exactly sure yet because it's foster and we haven't got all the results back. But right now she's on KD.
Well, I wanted to know, she said she was cooking for her dog and had done research, and I was curious to hear what she had to say, but I don't think I see her. Did you?
I just had 2 more questions. I was wondering, could you comment on the current recall, the Diamond Pet
Yeah.
recall?
Yeah.
Because that seems to be affecting a lot of like the national and grain-free brands as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Recalls aren't fully understood by the general public. What happened in this last Diamond recall was the Diamond facility, dog food companies will say, here's a recipe, this is how I want my dog food made. And then they'll go to a dog food manufacturer and say, here, make my dog food. So the quality of ingredients and everything being put into the dog food are up to the company's specs. But what happens in this case, and I think I saw the report online and pictures, apparently it looked like, and I don't wanna speak out of turn or out of line when I don't have all my facts straight, but from what I gathered, there were some, like they had patched together some machinery with duct tape and cardboard, and so it was, salmonella was growing in the machine, and so it contaminated a few of the foods. So what had happened is the reputable, and I don't know how this all pans out, it's just how it happened, the reputable dog food companies did a voluntary recall. They said, you know what, our food was in the facility at the same time that this other food was in the facility, so we're gonna voluntarily recall it, even though none of our food is testing positive for salmonella. And that is the responsible and respectable thing to do. Ideally, they would have their own facility, but that of course costs more money, and that cost is brought back to the consumer. So, you know, we have to make a trade-off. Now, like Canada, for example, was caught up in all of that, but they just opened their own facility in Texas and are now manufacturing their own food, so they will have a less likelihood of having this issue happen. So that's what happened with that recall. So if you were feeding a food and it was involved in the recall, I recommend that you contact the company directly and you know, find out what they have to say. And I don't always take that as gospel because, you know, they are the company and they're going to try to save face. But the reputable companies are usually pretty straightforward and honest. And so that's about, did that answer your question on the recall? And then did you have a second question?
Yeah, I was wondering, the dog that I just mentioned, she's on the Honest Kitchen dehydrated raw, because it's right on the end of her jaw and it can make it real soupy, so she can just lap it up.
Yeah.
I was wondering what you think of that.
I love Honest Kitchen. Honest Kitchen is very good. That is one thing I didn't touch on. I carry Sojourner Farms, and it's a dehydrated diet. So what that is, there's like two different varieties. There's one where you add your own meat, and there's one where there's meat included. So it's a powder, and you add water and you let it sit for a little while, and it rehydrates, and it's kind of like a mush or like a meal. Like it's and the dogs love it. It smells like Thanksgiving when you make it. I mean, it's got all kinds of different vegetables, and you can see the things in there. But it's another easy way to kind of get a raw, you know, it's a raw diet without actually having to feed the raw. And Honest Kitchen is a very good company. Yep. Uh-oh, I ran out of notes. There's one more page. There we go. Oh, allergies. I was going to touch on, I already touched on seizures and cancer. And allergies, there are little things that you can do. For example, the digestive enzymes, probiotics, and prebiotics. Strengthening the immune system, your dog's body is able to handle the symptoms so that they don't even really present in some cases. Now, obviously, that's not going to be the same for everybody across the board. Another thing, and this is for people and dogs alike, if your dog has, well, the most common allergies are food allergies. Let me back up. The most common allergies are food allergies. The most common protein sources dogs are allergic to, I touched on this earlier, chicken, beef, and then lamb is in third. So then you have to try to find a unique protein source, and then you're looking at like kangaroo or rabbit or venison, and sometimes those can be harder to find and a little more expensive. Then the corn and the wheat, dogs tend to be allergic to that. And then you can go, they can be allergic to anything. So if your dog starts out, the symptoms of allergies are biting at the feet, biting at the base of the tail, ear infections, body odor. And so if your dog presents with any of those, one of the first things you should do is you should look at diet and remove any of those easy things, because you could go and you could have your dog tested, which if your your trial and error doesn't pan out, you may have to do, but it's not 100% guarantee either that they're going to be spot on about what your dog is allergic to. I completely lost my train of thought. So, yeah. Oh, do you have a question?
I have a question.
Sure.
I have a very picky eater. I have to, every meal is this big to-do to encourage him to eat. And I'll find a food that he likes, and then 2 months later, he no longer likes it. So then we go through this
Whole dance
trying to
again.
find a new food, and he'll like that food for 2 more months. I mean, do you have any suggestions of like one sort of consistent thing that I can add to his diet? And he's skinny. I mean, I have a hard time keeping weight on him.
Can I ask you a question? Will you be honest?
Sure.
Do you free feed?
No.
Oh, good. A lot of times picky eaters are free fed.
No, and I'm very consistent. He has 15 minutes to eat. In that 15 minutes, I'm like, come on, oh look, it's very good. Oh, I'm gonna eat it, you know. And sometimes he'll eat it, but after 15 minutes, I throw it away.
Yeah. Well, I'm very much a tough love kind of person. I start out with, first of all, making sure he's not sick. Like if it pops up all of a sudden, or if it's always been that way, if it's always been that way, then, not such a red flag. But first, always make sure that they're not sick. Then, see how long you can go with, putting the food down, picking it up. Don't talk to them, don't look at them, provide the food, give them 10 minutes, pick it up. Don't say anything. Don't encourage them, don't try to hand feed them, don't anything. See if because sometimes dogs, Basenjis, master manipulators, sometimes they're like, hey, mom's gonna make a big to-do about this, and so, they like it, could be, could not be. But I would try doing that first, and if he still doesn't want to eat, then you can do things, we all want our dogs to enjoy what they're eating, but you can do things like mixing in some dehydrated. You can feed your quality kibble, and then you can do like a little dollop. There's so many things you can do, and you can vary it too. You can do canned food where you just take a little tablespoon and you mix it in, and it coats the food, and you change the flavors of the canned food so that, and hopefully he doesn't just lick the food off the kibble and leave the kibble. But there's you can add pumpkin, you can add, somebody said cottage cheese when we were talking, when Suzanne was talking. You can do things to entice them. You may also just want to pick a food that you can rotate your protein sources, like Nature's Variety, where you can do venison for one bag, and the next bag is rabbit, so that he gets that variety. Some dogs just really crave it. Some dogs will just eat the same thing day in, day out gleefully, and never ask for something different. But some dogs are like individuals, like people.
All right, thank you.
Sure. Yes.
I usually feed dry kibble. I usually pick up food off of the Whole Dog Journal, dry dog food list.
Yes.
And there's a store in Toledo that carries dog food from that list. That's the only food we usually carry. But I usually get like 2 or 3 kinds, and I'll mix them with Canada grain-free green, my main one that I always have. And then I'll mix like natural plant organics or something else in there. So I'm always having a mixture of foods in there. Like one might be like Canada Pure Sky, and then I'll mix something with I don't know, some other kind of protein in it.
Yeah.
So what do you think of that?
I think that's fine. If you are pulling, my bottom line recommendation and my goal for all of you is to get as close to a whole food, species appropriate diet as possible, that you can afford and that your time will allow. So that means that ideally, you would be feeding raw. But what you're doing, you're picking, from what I can tell, you're picking quality kibble, and you're varying your protein sources, you're varying your I myself like to kind of stick within brands, but as long as you're picking quality, that's fine. I think that's better than what a majority of people are doing, and it's better for your dog.
Yeah, they never seem to have any digestive problems with me
Well,
varying it all
and if
the
they're
time.
used to it, they probably won't. It's just the dogs that have been fed the same thing for years, and then they switch up that
Now,
day.
if I wanted to start incorporating something raw, because I have 2 Basenjis, 2 Rottweilers, and another mix that's 100 pounds. So I go through 8 cups of dry a day. So if I wanted to incorporate raw, whether it be that natural balance?
Nature's Variety.
Nature's Variety. If I wanted to start incorporating that in there, and
How would you go about that?
reasonable financial, thing.
Well, what you could do, Nature's Variety makes a patty, and they also make a medallion. The medallions are like coin shaped, and the patties look like hamburger patties. And you can crumble them up on top of the food that you're feeding. You can replace one meal with raw, so that they can still get some raw, but you're not breaking the bank doing it. A new product that I don't even know if it's hit the shelves yet, Nature's Variety is making it. It looks like kibble, but it's raw pieces it's frozen raw. So it's in this little kibble form, but it's raw meat. And so that makes it really convenient to sprinkle and kind of, be able to do that. I think that would probably be. And you can also do, if you know your meat's coming from a reputable place, you can get things from the butcher. I mean,
Well, I do get, usually, I haven't done it lately, for a long time, like every Saturday night, they all get a raw frozen bone.
mhm.
And my 10.5-year-old Arnie doesn't have any heart on his teeth, and he's never had dental work done.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
so, just like what you were saying, it does work.
yeah, yeah. Excellent.
Sorry.
No, that's okay, you have good questions.
I missed the very beginning, so if you touched on this already, let me know. You're stressing, eating a balanced diet,
Right.
and I was wondering if you could touch on some of the different raw strategies, like bark, prey model, I don't know.
I
any other
did
raw
not, yeah, I didn't touch on those. You know, there are so many different variations of like raw diets out there. One that I would recommend, in the beginning I mentioned Dr. Karen Becker and Mercola.com. They actually sell a raw dog food cookbook. So, and I think Bark sells a cookbook, and there's the different I think they're all pretty much rather sound. I don't know that I have a lot of experience with like the different variations, but I've got a little experience on a lot of them. And they I think when you're at that point where you're feeding raw, it's almost like you're splitting hairs. As long as it's balanced and you're following a plan. I mean, they've obviously done the research. Then I think you're safe. And then watch your dog. Watch them, and they will tell you if their coat is shiny, their teeth are clean, their eyes are bright, they don't have issues and dry, flaky skin, and so next.
One of the things that I want to mention too is that, we talk about salmonella with the chicken. I raise chickens for my dog to eat. I don't eat chicken. Dogs love them. But one of the things for the teeth and getting calcium is the bones.
Yeah.
You can give them the raw chicken bones. It's
Right.
okay.
Raw bones are okay, they can chew them, they can
Yeah.
break them, they don't splinter.
They don't splinter. And what I do, even now I have rabbits, I raise rabbits for my chicken, or for my dogs too, and lambs and all of that. I happily give them all of that. I will just cut it in
Yeah.
quarters or whatever, and a 60-pound Siberian will only eat a pound of raw meat in a day, so if Cindy doesn't eat all that much, one whole chicken will feed Cindy for a week,
Mm-hmm.
bones and all. So, and the bones have a lot of nutrition with the marrow.
Oh, they do, yeah.
And it really has helped, supplement, and that's one of the things that we do supplement. We actually will mix in like, we buy like a quarter of a cow from a neighbor, and I don't like ground beef, so I mix all the 48 pounds of ground beef that they gave us in with the dog's food, and they eat that.
Yeah, and that's a really great source, a local farm. I'm assuming that,
There's a lot of, one of the things to tell people is that there's a lot of people that raise cattle around you, and they're always looking for someone to buy like a half or a quarter. And a quarter of a cow, my husband is a bodybuilder, he eats protein 3 times a day. We can't eat it all. We've been giving it away. I mean, even with the dogs, we can't eat it all. That's a lot of meat. So, I mean, it's really cost effective to do it that way too.
yeah,
I mean, we saved a lot of money doing it that way, even with the dogs eating it.
absolutely. Are there any other questions? I think that pretty much brings me, I know there's gonna be something that I wanna talk about that I missed. Oh,
I do have a question.
yes.
If I was gonna look into a diet for Lee, who has the kidney problem, where would be the best place to start looking for that?
I would definitely go to Mercola.com, the one that I keep mentioning, and there is a video library that you can look through, and there are articles, and if you can't find it there, I would just do the Whole Dog Journal. I call it the Doggy Bible. I mean, I stock my store based on their recommendations. Whole Dog Journal is a magazine that does not allow any advertising in it. So unfortunately, that means it's more expensive for us because we have to compensate for that, but it's worth it because if you buy Dog World magazine and there's a full page of, 3 full-page Purina ads in it, do you think they're gonna say anything bad, allow any articles in there that, So it's just saying it's they do a lot of third-party testing. I really trust what they say. So I would highly recommend that everybody subscribe to that. Just some basic internet research. You have to be smart about your internet research like you do with anything, because people who have a computer can put up a website and say this is the gospel, and if you're not smart about it, you could believe it too. So you just kind of have to be careful. But what I generally do is I'll look at multiple websites, and then you kind of pull them together, and you pull out things that a lot of people are saying that seem like they've been backed up by actual trials, and kind of go that route.
I actually wanted to mention something about the kidney health. I'm going on 3 years with my dog having about 75% of her kidneys or less, and the really good places online will give you the information for free. So even if they're selling supplements, they will still give you the diet, holistic approaches, like cold and heat therapy and things like that. They'll give you that for free. So it's kind of how you know that they're a good source, because you can get the diets and stuff for free, even if you don't buy the product.
Thanks. Yeah. Yes?
Can you answer an off-topic question?
Maybe. Yes. I think we do.
What about raw with cats?
You can do raw with cats. Yeah.
I've heard it's much more difficult.
The Nature's Variety is the same for cats as it is with cats. Are more difficult because they're just cats. You know how they're like, ew, I don't know, and they're I think I just read something about cats and raw just a couple days ago. Something about how they don't like chicken or something like that. But it's trial and error. Like I said, the Nature's Variety, their formulas for cats and dogs, and so you can do, if you go on their website and sign up for their email list, they'll quite frequently send you coupons for $3 to $5 off, like raw or something, to try to entice you to try it and purchase it, and but definitely, yeah. And companies like, I don't know if Honest Kitchen has a cat diet, but I'm pretty sure they might. But I know that Sojourner Farms has a raw cat, or the dehydrated raw cat diet. So yeah, absolutely.
I have just a real quick question.
Sure.
When on dog food, when you see the protein and it says meal, like
Like chicken meal?
Chicken meal.
Mhm.
What does that mean? I mean, what?
It's meat and bone, which is good. There are theories out there that there's a lot of fluoride is derived from bone, and fluoride can actually cause cancer, and in people too. So fluoride is in our tap water, not to be all but I really am trying to get away from giving my dogs tap water because there's fluoride in it, and it will actually potentially cause bone cancer. So, but you just need to. It's mostly meat and meat meal, I guess is what to answer your question. Anyone else have anything? 5. 5 minutes. Well, treats. I wanted to touch on treats. I was telling you all these things to stay away from, like wheat, corn, soy, in your dog food. That is fine in treats if your dog doesn't have allergies. As long as I'm always trying to get as whole as I can on my ingredients. So I like to look at my cookies, and I can recognize everything in there. Like Sojourner Farms, they have some really great treats. They have like 6 ingredients, and you can understand every single one of them. And so your treats are important too. You shouldn't be feeding a raw diet and then buying the treats that are chock full of sugar and salt and all this other stuff that you don't know. But so yeah, I know. I always cringe when my dog trainer says, to use hot dogs, or you know, I try not to name brand names of things when I'm doing these kinds of things, but yeah, so you know, it's a whole thing, anything that goes in and on your dog, all natural and whole ingredients, if at all possible.
On our horse farm, we have a miniature horse farm, we have salt blocks out, and whenever the horses aren't there, he tries to steal as much salt as possible. Is salt like that okay, or should we try to avoid?
I would, you know, everything in balance, nothing in excess. I wouldn't let them do it on a regular basis. It's kind of like, you know, offering a kid a bag of potato chips, you know, and I love salt, you know, and I have to watch myself with it. But, you know, just balance and no excess. I wouldn't let them do it as much as they want to, you know. If they sneak a lick every once in a while, no big deal, but anybody else?